it.
Dr. Francis Johnson, congratulations on being honored for your 40 years of research that helped make it possible for Americans to reach for the stars. You have served our state and nation with distinction. George W. Bush, Governor of Texas.
He has sort of silent authority because he's very well respected, and he thinks things out very carefully before he says things and makes recommendations.
He was responsible really for developing the scientific programs in the space science area here at the Graduate Research Center, and then when we became UT Dallas, he was the first president. He was an interim president, but he got this place started as the University of Texas at Dallas.
Well, I was born in Omak, Washington, and when I was about 2 years old, my parents moved from Omak to southern Alberta, Rainier. My mother did raise prize-winning turkeys, and I don't know how she got into it, but that had a big effect on my life in a way that you wouldn't have expected. In the mid-1930s, my father had the opportunity to take over a bankrupt hatchery in Edmonton, and that became Johnson Hatcheries. And I worked in the hatchery during the hatchery season, which is the spring season. So I handled a great number of baby chicks that time, over 1 million of them. When I was in high school, I had no thoughts of going to university. It was a surprise to me when I was getting near graduation in high school. My dad said, well, you ought to go to the university. And so I did. There are so many occasions in my life when I've had opportunities which I was able to take advantage of only because I had the right education. And on this, the University of Alberta stands out as one that contributed mightily to that. I had an unusual opportunity in joining the Air Force and studying under some of the world's leading meteorologists who had moved from Norway to the University of California, Los Angeles.
We met through a mutual friend. My friend called me and said, would you like to go on a picnic? I was in Washington working for the FBI. I said, of course I would. He had a car. See, nobody had cars in those days.
I met my wife just by chance. We liked each other, and after about a year, we got married.
At first, I wasn't that attracted to him. But he was such a nice person. And he treated you so well, and such a gentleman, I guess. That's really what attracted me to him. And I knew he was a very smart man.
I've got the world on a string.
In Washington, D.C., I was in a central weather forecasting unit, Army, Navy, and Weather Bureau, and among the first people to move into the Pentagon building. When we moved into the Pentagon building, we wore overcoats and gloves because the heating system didn't work, and it was in wintertime. But after about a year in that, I was assigned to the Mediterranean Allied Air Forces, basically, and served in a weather central in Bari, Italy, providing forecast services primarily for the 15th Air Force and its strategic bombing.
Frank thought about things like how would the radiation from the sun be distributed in the atmosphere, sort of very big topics that turn out to be of fundamental importance.
When I came back from overseas, I obtained a job with the Naval Research Laboratory in Washington. And after being there only a few weeks, they said, B-2 rockets have become available for research, and we would like for you to build some instruments to fly in the B-2s. Just entirely chance. But by virtue of the training I'd had, both at Alberta and at Berkeley, I was well prepared for this. And so that's where there's a big career change, and I became an upper atmospheric or space scientist rather than a meteorologist.
On the Apollo missions, Dr. Johnson had developed an instrument which was a pressure gauge to try to measure the pressure of the atmosphere of the moon. Now, generally when you think about the moon, you think that it has no atmosphere, but that's not quite true. There is a set of gases that are permanent around the moon, and he developed this gauge to actually measure the quantity of the gases.
Well, this is a copy of the instrument that was sent to the moon to detect the amount of atmosphere on the moon. The sensing element is this thing right here, and when this was placed on the lunar surface, this part was taken out and placed about a yard away from the rest of the instrument.
Most recently, he's looked at things like waves in the atmosphere. We tend to think of sort of large-scale features as controlling what goes on most of the time, but it turns out that quite often small-scale perturbations in the atmosphere have a very large effect globally.
Did you see my Swiss chart over here? We've got some Swiss chart over here. We've had a wonderful 58 years. We've traveled all over the world, and I've done so many things that I would never have done had it not been for Frank.